and then we will discuss more about creating the test case. Okay, and also this to all about the test case. So we will be check on the templates which I already discussed. The assignment template is one of the template for the test case, and also we have another one more, so we will check on that. Okay, so is everyone there? Not yet, is it? Okay, let me start first while they will join. Okay, so the first part is the test progress and monitoring. So last week we have been talking about the test execution. It means once we done with the planning as how we want to conduct the test, so we will do the test execution. So as part of that, we need to have this test monitoring. Test monitoring here means we want to track how the test execution is carried out. So we have plan, okay, and we have documented in our test plan. So when we do the test execution, we still need to do the monitoring so that we can track how is our testing work is going on. Because how we plan, how we write the test plan doesn't guarantee us 100% our testing will be carry according to that. So sometimes there will be some issues happen. So in that case, if we don't do monitoring, we will not be aware of what happened. So that's why we need to track how the testing work is being carried out. If everything is okay, or if it's any issues, any problem here and there, and how we are going to fix it. Okay, so the purpose here is, first thing is we have to make sure that we able to give feedback. So when we are conducting the testing, it means we are going to have the feedback. So this feedback normally will be like how to say, depends, either we want to do daily or we want to do weekly. Okay, but we want to make sure that there will be feedbacks given based on what is going on, so that we can able to do any improvement in the testing. Okay, so now what we have mentioned on the test plan. Okay, after we have done the development, we want to do the testing, right? So we do the test planning. So how we plan, is it able how we are going to conduct it 100% or not? So when we don't give the feedback, we will not know what are the issues is going on. So this can also able to help in improve the testing. Okay, so other than that, we have to make sure the result. So remember, we always talk about when we prepare the test case, we want to prepare the positive test case, the negative test case, to cover the every scope of our of your system. Okay, so in that case, we have to also make sure the test result is visible to see, for us to indicate the percentage of the pass test case and also the failed test case. So this can be also be the part of the criteria for the continuation criteria and also the exit criteria of the testing. So this can be helpful to measure the status for us to decide against the continuation criteria, either did we able to proceed with the testing or not, or we can also use it as an exit criteria. Are we done, and then we can end the testing or not? Okay, and also we can use this data for the future estimation. So based on what we have mentioned in the test plan and what we are conducting, so how many percentage we able to follow based on our test plan. Let's assume our test plan we mentioned 100%. This is how we plan to do the testing, and then end up during the execution we able to achieve only 50%. So the balance 50% we actually do other touch up. It means how we are going to improve the testing, like the risk and the managing of the risk and so on. So based on that, we get a new data here. So this actually can be useful for the future estimation. Okay, so this is actually as part of the test log. So for your final project, right? Okay, since you will be doing your chapter 5 in your final project 2, which will be 100% the testing thing. Okay, so as part of the documentation in your chapter 5, you will be preparing the test plan. But this test log is actually like based on our test execution. Okay, how we are executing each of our test case. So we will have our test log. But for your case, for your FYP, normally we don't need to prepare a separate test log because you will be directly filling up your test cases. Like we already prepared the test case, right? So you can directly indicate the result in there. But normally outside there, this test log is actually part of the test monitoring, and it's depend small project, small system, normally we can use a manual way like a documentation way, or if it's a large or very complex system, normally we can have automated tools which can support and keep track the daily test log happen. So here if you see, it's something like we are listing down based on our daily test case execution and what we get from the execution, if during the execution there is any issues or not. So it's something like we are keeping track of daily log. Okay, so based on our test case execution, okay, day one everything is okay, no issue. Then suddenly one task is having a failure. So what is the issue there, where is the defect happen? So we need to list down all this. So this test log is something like our daily record book to record what will be happening during the execution. So this will be part of our test monitoring. So for your FIP, normally we don't need to keep track as part of the test log because you will directly fill up in your test case. For example, this is the test case. Huh? This is actually your assignment test case. So when you are preparing for your FIP also, right, you can use this test case back. So since you are already filling up here, so we don't need to have a separate test log. Okay, so just for you to understand how in the reality we will use this test log. Okay, so this is just an example of a manual way of keeping track, okay, using Excel spreadsheet. Okay, like each of the test ID and the test case or the test suit, what is the status and all other details like what is the plan date, who run the test case, what is the duration, the comments, all these things. This is manually recorded test log. But depends, sometimes we can also use automation testing, sorry, automation tool which can help us to do this log. Okay. Okay, so this one is about the general matrix. Okay, where when we are doing the monitoring part of the test execution, so we want to have a matrix or a standard measurement how we are doing the execution. So where it is actually depend on the testers or the stakeholders, the needs of the projects or any other requirement, and also the time and money constraint. Okay, other than that, the metrics, what metrics we want to use, it's considered based on the completion of the test environment and also the test coverage which is achieved. So achieve here means based on our test plan, what we have mentioned, and during the test execution, the reality when we do the test execution, how will be the test coverage which we achieved. Okay, so normally it will be measure against to the requirement, measure against to the functionality, to the code, or also to the risk. Okay, so other than that, this matrix also can be used for the measuring the status of the testing. Okay, so since we already have a plan milestone. So when we do the testing, did we achieve that status or not? Then other than that, it can be also for the economic wise, it means the budget. Okay, so we want to make sure the execution of the test is actually within the budget which we have planned in the test plan or not. Okay, so this one will be covered in the next one, the test summary. Okay, so as part of the test progress monitoring and control, just now was the test monitoring. So this one is the control. So remember, we always talk about this risk, product risk, the project risk, right? So it's very important to identify this risk so that we able to control it instead of those risk will be controlling us. Okay, because how we plan whatever we mention in the test plan 100%, we cannot guarantee it can be covered 100%. Okay, so normally doesn't matter of a project or the testing project, it's always have a stage where we cannot fulfill every part which we have planned, which we mention in our test plan. So the project do not always unfold as what we plan. So when there is something happen, unexpectedly something happen, so we need to able to plan and control and bring back the project or the testing back under control. So we don't want this particular unexpected thing or the risk actually disturb the testing and is actually give us any bad result. So it's very important to make sure that we're able to do the test control. Okay, so other than that, it's also about guiding and the corrective action, okay, where we want to try to achieve the best possible outcome at the end of our project or end of our testing. So from that 100% what you have planned inside your test plan, how many percent did we achieve? So let's assume I said 50%. So the balance is 50% there is issue. So how actually you control that 50% to bring your project back to under control without any issues happen. Okay. Then this is the test data management. So as part of your testing, when you are preparing the test case, okay, test data is part of it. Okay, so depends with what you are planning to test. Okay, sometimes we want to test how to say functionalities, and sometimes we want to test non-functionality side, right? So according to that, how we are actually going to gather the test data and how we are going to use the test data. Okay, so first of all, we must analyze the data, especially we need to know based on our test case preparation, okay, which data we are going to use. So we need to do a thorough analysis of all the different kinds of data which we will need for our test case preparation. Okay, then we need to do the data setup to mirror the production environment. Okay, it means we need to understand the data based on the real end user and also the production scenario. It means uh, the requirement of the data which is needed based on the real life data. It means when we set a production data or based on the daily transaction data, are we fulfilling according to that needs or not? Then if it's not, then we do the modification according to fulfilling those requirement. Okay, then to do the test data cleanup, so it is very important, especially when you are using a large amount of data for your testing, but your testing is actually just need some or few data. So you actually need to do the proper data cleaning to decide which data you need to use for that particular test case execution. Okay, so for example, let's assume like your final project, you are doing something related to tar UMT site. Okay, so tar UMT, we already have our own database where it is storing all the student data, all the staff data, and so on. So when you are saying that you are preparing a test data based on the tar UMT database, it's going to be a huge amount of data, but you might not need all the data. So you need to make sure you do the data cleaning so that you can utilize the data based on your test scope. So it is very important because we have this issue where it was a previous batch. The student actually work on the timetabling system, okay, for TAI UMT for our faculty. So the student actually download the data and they took 1 month to do the data cleaning, and just for them to prepare the test data which they need for their testing. So it is actually wasted of 1 month time, when actually for their FIP they don't need to disturb the real life data which has been stored, because they might just need a data, sorry, for the functionality testing. So in that case they don't need to download a huge amount of data. But if it's needed, then yes, you need to do a proper data cleaning so that you can decide which data you will need for your testing purpose. Okay, other than that, yes, we might be dealing with the sensitive data. So you cannot simply share or simply make a copy or simply use any sensitive data. So you have to make sure that when the real data being shared with you, how you are actually protecting them. Okay, then other than that, automation. So let's assume if you need to generate any data, so we can actually have a generator, data generator. So we can actually automatically generate the data, creation of the data. Okay, and sometimes if we might not need, we can actually generate manually. Okay, then another important thing is where we are going to store this data for our testing purpose. So remember, test data is part of our test environment which we need to set up. So it is very important for us to have a centralized repository so that everybody, all of you, able to access to the data in the right versioning or in the right flow which you need for your testing purpose. Okay, so that you will not misunderstand with any old or outdated data. Okay, so this is about the test case. Okay, so the test case actually, the template which I have already share with you, and which we already have seen it, have discussed it earlier. Okay, so this is a test case where it will have the input, the action, and also the expected result. Okay, so by using this test case, we actually try to break the application to test certain functionality with the aim to find the defect. Okay, so we want to make sure that by the time we want to pass the application or the software to the customer, to the end user, we already able to detect all the defect and we able to fix them. Okay, so for that we need a test case which can give us all this information for us to conduct the test execution. Okay, so this is what we actually want to test, where we want to test every feature of the application to prevent any defect before we will release to the client side. Okay, so every test case will have the test tab. Okay, where normally like the senior tester, they normally prepare the test case with the information all being provided, and then the junior tester will be the one conducting it. But here for you, you will be the one designing the test case and you will be the one executing the test case. Okay, you will be the one doing it. So the same thing goes for your final project. You actually will be the one designing the test case. You will be the one doing the execution, and you don't need to wait for the supervisor or moderator to do the execution for you. So normally you will fill up all those expected result and also the actual result, and to determine either it's a pass test case, fail test case, by the time you are going to do the final testing. Okay, so you just have to make sure that you design the test case first, everything is correct, then you will do the execution, fill up the test case. Okay, so when we actually should start to write the test case, so this is actually a general question, because we don't have a specific time, especially when we said we are using different methodology. Of course we will have different timing when we will start writing the test case. But the most common time which we will say is, of course, this is one of the test entry criteria, right? So by the time we are going to start the test, we must already come up with the test case. Okay, so where we can decide on the input, on the output, and so on, it will be based on the requirement. So in the traditional, so normally it will be based on the requirement specification. It means you have produced the SRS, you have reviewed the SRS, and the requirement specification actually has been completed, has been finalized. Then by that time we actually able to do the development of the code and also preparation of the testing. Okay, so this is actually the traditional methodology. But since now we are not really into the traditional, where the new development methodology is depend. So for example, when we are using a shorter time, okay, for example, if we use agile scrum, we don't even have a complete SRS, because in every sprint we work on different small pieces of functionality. So based on that, which part we are doing the development, which part we are doing the testing, then we can actually prepare the test case based on those functionality which we need to test first. So it depends. When you choose a methodology for your project, right, each of this methodology, it's work on a different way, because it have a different timeline to follow, or it has a different maturity to follow. So it means not everybody, all of you will have the same timeline to follow when you will be preparing this. Okay, so it's depend with which methodology we are using, because we are not into traditional development methodology anymore. So when you are using any new methodology, then we might have different amount of specification we have, or different requirement we have. According to that, the development also will be different, and based on that, the test case also will be different. So it's depend. So sometimes whenever we are doing any adding of new features, or doing some new features, then we will write and straightly execute the test case. So it's depend with how the methodology work. Okay, so it's not really following the traditional development methodology anymore, where we wait for the requirement to be complete and also for the coding to be complete. Not at all. Okay, so we can say generally, but requirement specification depend. Is it like the whole system, is it like a module, or is it like certain functionality only? So it's depend with which methodology you choose. Okay, so this part is the technique for the developing test case. So here we only cover the black box testing technique. Okay, of course we have covered on the dynamic, which is covering the white box and also the black box. Okay, where we will prepare the test case based on white box, means based on the basis path which we identify from the control flow graph. And if we said for the black box, it means based on the test design technique. Either we use equivalent partitioning or boundary value analysis, or we use the cause effect graph and decision table. So it's depend with which technique we want to use for us to prepare the test case. Okay. So writing the test case will be based on the system specification and user documentation. Okay. And this is for the black box. For the white box, is normally based on the control flow graph. It means the line of code flow of the application. Okay, so these are the items on the test case. So this one, and also I think we should have two different test case. Do I have it here? Okay, I think I didn't include the second test case. So this is one test case. Okay, so based on this test case, you can see we have all these items. Okay, so we have the test case ID, and then what system name or what module name or what unit we want to test, and then we have the assumptions, or we have the short descriptions. Okay, and then we have the test data, the steps to be executed, expected result, actual result, the pass or fail, and the comments. And sometimes we will have this precondition, and we have this post condition. Okay, so this normally will be template. Every different companies, they have different template they will use. So for example, if you just google for test case template, you will see a lot of different template, but the basic information which is needed for us to break the system, to execute the test case, to get the result, the basic thing will be there. But it's just that different standard, they have some different terms being used, or different way of arranging the template. That's it. Because if you see, we have action here, we have expected system, but we don't sorry, we have expected system response, but we don't have the actual. Okay, but some different template, they will have the expected, they will have the actual. So they will be having different standards of template to be used actually. Okay, so it is not a crime at all to say that, oh, this test case is a wrong template. Not at all. Okay, we can use different type of template. It depend with the companies and the standards which they are using. Okay, so this is just a sample of the test case. So you can see this is the test case ID, what system we want to test, and this is subsystem or can be called as a module, and then test case name. Normally for functionality means what function we want to test. Okay, and then designed by who, executed by who. So design date, execution date. Just remember, design date must be earlier than the execution date. So as part of the review, test case also need to be reviewed. So design date must be earlier than the execution date. So test case description is just describing more about the test case, what we want to conduct. So this is the precondition. If we have any precondition, so we need to fill it up here. And then this will be the step action. It means one by one, the step action need to be done. And the expected system response. Sometimes each of these action will have the response. Sometimes some action will not have a response. Okay, so after that, we will have the post condition. It means at the end of this execution, what will be the final condition of the system. So if you see, this is how the person designed the test case will prepare. Can you see the pass fail is empty, the comment is empty. So the second tester who is going to execute the test case will fill up this pass fail. So as what I have mentioned, you will be the